everything. So
that's dope. That's dope.
yeah.
You said something real there. I haven't really done anything about Black fatherhood yet. I feel like I've dabbled. But that point about like when they're born, and I think so. A lot of my work is on just like around Black men's experiences, away from like the general like tropes that we usually get, which is dope.
Right.
Like a lot of those tropes I fucks with, but I feel like we're not always getting to tell our full story as Black men.
Right.
And so that fatherhood piece is so deep because I don't think people fully engage with the like cosmic, like the big brain thinking you do as a Black father, engaging with all the complex like stigmas you have internalized.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And like, I don't know about you. Like I didn't grow up, I knew my father, I didn't grow up with him. And we were relatively close, but like I couldn't rely on my pops. You know what I mean? And that's better than a lot of dudes had. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then you get so many messages about, what a Black father isn't. And so you get that baby and you don't even get to appreciate it at first. That's kind of what you're talking about. It's like you couldn't even appreciate that moment for its full totality because you had to first unpack all this other stuff.
Everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's real. It's interesting you say that part. Like I didn't really get a chance to be in that moment because it's funny because I was actually at work when I was at work. I had just started a job. It was at
institution,
actually, and like she was going into labor, and it was like, all right, do I go now or like what's happening? And when she came, all I could think about was, okay, do I have this in place? Do I have that in place? All right, let me make sure this is in order. So I couldn't really, that's interesting. You said I couldn't really be present in the moment because I'm just thinking about, and a lot of times fathers, man, like fathers are doing a lot of the big work. So you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the day-to-day stuff, the individual stuff or whatever, maybe the things that maybe more mothers are traditionally, you know what I'm saying, called to do, especially if you're talking about a more so-called traditional, structure, family structure, if you will. But like you said, a lot of times the dads are kind of thinking on kind of the larger sense of what needs to happen. And I also think, not exactly like your case, but I guess similar, I knew my dad was in my life, but him and my mom's, were together at one point and then they split at one point. So it was kind of like, it wasn't always as stable or as traditional, right? And so I don't think I really appreciated the things that he did because we would have kind of, contention going back and forth throughout my teenage years or whatever, whether explicitly or implicitly. And I don't think I appreciated it until maybe after I graduated college and really kind of understood from his perspective what he was dealing with at the time, and where we was living and, certain conditions and what he was taught. And, a lot of stuff he just didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he meant no harm. I just think he just didn't know.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to be a little bit more patient with him, especially even after I became a father.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Some of the conflicts with my pops are similar. One thing that I don't think there's enough analysis. I'm gonna do a little life course with you for a second. There's not enough analysis on like the ramifications of surviving that sustained form of racism our pops survived. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I fought with Dr. Chow one time in a class. I was like, things are better. She's like, nah, it ain't better, bro. It's different. And I was like, oh yeah, you kind of got me there. But don't get me wrong, I'll take this version than that version. You know what I'm saying? Where like the level of like overt terrorism that my pops dealt with, that our grandpops dealt with under white supremacy, and like how that they translated that like survival tactic to us, but the world required a different set of like tools, and they didn't, you know what I'm saying? And it's like they didn't always know how to implement those for us. And so that creates conflict because like my pops would be, you know, my pop, I don't know if I talked about my pops was, you know, old school Pan-African, you know, real hard dude. And I'm like, Dad, none of this fits into the world I'm actually in. Like, I appreciate what you're talking about, but I don't know if this has a lot of use for me right now. And
right.
I don't know if it was all that good for you, real talk, man. Like, you know, and so that learning that compassion after the fact is another big thing. And it is easier to do, or not easier, but it comes more naturally maybe after you kind of also entered into that space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.